I'm very appreciative that you guys are taking the time to watch it, and I will be there for the Q&A. Thank you.
Santiago, we had a full house. We had to send 4 people away. Had no chairs for that.
What did you guys think?
Why didn't he show more of how you got to where you are now? It was such, the whole film was so painful. Why didn't you show more about your recovery?
Ooh, okay. Can you raise your hand?
For that row. I don't think you can. No, you.
Can you come into the camera?
Where's the camera?
I see you, yeah, what's up? I don't think this is a movie just for those who struggle. I want to be very clear about that. If we're going to shift humanity, then it requires those that don't struggle as much to watch this, to understand, to have more empathy for the rest of them. If not, the resentment is still going to grow. Everyone has to do their part. We all have debt to pay. So if we didn't grow up in this kind of struggle, we really need to understand it better by feeling it. So if it made you feel some raw emotions that were uncomfortable, well, that's growing pains. We have to start growing. And you're right, a lot of people don't want to go into the pain. We hide it, we avoid it, and we've been doing that for a long time. And that's why things are getting worse. My stepfather died the same year that Tim died. So did my friend Toby Eagle that year. Toby and I, when we were little kids, up until junior high, we used to go out on the street and collect cans together. And Toby was black. If you met him, he might talk tough. He has cornrows. You saw him on the street, you might be scared of him or something. And I'm telling you right now, he was a teddy bear. He was a protector. He was beautiful. He was light. He was love. He was a beautiful soul. And he was shot and killed in the same year that Tim died and the same year that my stepfather died. When we go towards the truth and bring our own shadows to light, that's how we heal. Do you think it should be shown in theaters?
Yes. In schools. How about film and schools?
Yeah, particularly for schools. Are we recording this by any chance?
Yes.
Don't give up on this film. It really needs to be seen. Last night I was just trying to kill some time, and I tried to watch some movies on HBO, and what Hollywood is putting out is abominable. I mean, there's nothing to watch. And that's why we're here. I think most of us are to see something that's worth taking time to see and to experience.
Can I ask you guys again? Do you think this movie should be in theater?
Yes, but here's the thing.
Do you think that people would come to see it?
No. Here's the problem. They're afraid of this movie. This is very harsh stuff for most people who are in denial to accept. It has its own intrinsic value that when you see it, you recognize that it's the truth, and you compare that to what you see that Hollywood's putting out, which is a fairy tale, and that's not the truth.
I think there's a shift happening right now.
Yes, I agree with you.
And I think we're in a revolution of the evolution. And I think that audiences are becoming more conscious. And I think Hollywood is missing that right now. And I keep telling them and banging on their door, I'm trying, they're not listening to me yet. So I agree with you. However, the way we come together, because we are all one people, we all struggle. If we don't start being honest about that, then we're going to have more problems down the line.
Yeah.
And it's starting to get to that time. Look at what's happening in the schools. Now, we can deny that certain kids cuss, are in trouble, are in a crisis. We could isolate them some more. We could push them away, say our kids can't hang out with that kid. And that's just going to build more resentment for that kid when he's 12, 13 years old. And by the time he's 18 years old, it's happening. Or we can start being honest now, sharing the truth, and helping the kids with love and safety come to the rescue now. Because the kids, when they understand how that feels, not by talking about it, but watching something like this to feel that emotion, then they can go to the kid that they normally judge, who's acting out with aggression, understand where it's coming from, understand there must be something else happening in the home, and come and start sharing the love that they've received from more healthy parents. That is the solution. Love is the only energy that can heal.
I spent 31 years as a teacher, and this last 17 years, I was right up in Napa in 1995, in that whole decade. From 88 to 2004, I taught kids that were in residential treatment centers and probation, in juvenile halls. That was my crowd. So when I saw you as a child on film, you were immediately recognizable to me. The language, the behavior, the acting out was very, very familiar. But what I wanted to say in terms of having hope is that the last 3 movies that I've gone to see at mainstream theaters have been RBG, about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Pope Francis, and last night, Won't You Be My Neighbor, about Fred Rogers.
Yes.
And every time I went to those movies, the theater was full.
I'm telling you.
That gave me real hope, because there's the political era right now is creating this hunger for.
I'm trying to tell Hollywood that they don't hear me. I had told the head of Amazon that. I had told. I don't want to name drop right now with these because I could get in trouble for saying who I talked to and said that to because it looks bad. But I told everyone this.
Well,
They think it's too small of a story.
I hope that the crowds keep coming to these movies that are already in the theaters, and hopefully yours will make it too.
Thank you.
The film in juvenile halls. You described that in the last Q&A.
I have screened it in 7 different juvenile centers, and it has a really powerful effect on the kids. So what the kids realize is how they're pushing people away, people that look like Tim, away, and the judgments they have. And they start to recognize that there's love out there, and they're not accepting some of that love. So, and they're also starting to see some of their behavior and how it's keeping them from getting what it is they actually want. And, we all want love. We all want to be respected. And I've got some beautiful letters from juvenile detention centers that I shared in the last screening last weekend. I mean, I could read it to you if you like, but the kids are deeply impacted by the movie as well. And that's why I know the movie should be out, because if these kids are very real, they're not going to lie. Or rather, they're not going to, they would want to say the movie is weak, but instead they come out wanting to cry and not showing it to one another. So one of the messages I share for the kids is they have to go into their pain. They have to release their tears. There's an awful stigma amongst young men and men in general not to cry. We have to change that stigma.
Yes.
We have to teach our young men how to cry so that they become less aggressive when they become adults. And that happens at a young age. If we can start healing the kids now, we can have healthier men and, shift humanity in the years to come. But we need to teach our young men in pain right now how to relieve that pain.
This film reminded me of Moonlight, which won the Oscar for Best Picture last year. Like, there totally is a space for this. People do want to see these stories, and I think it shows us, like, maybe a film a lot of, struggle, but actually ends with message and, like, you be the change that you want to see, and like you be the Tim for the people in your community, like that, I think that's even more powerful to end it that way.
Thank you. Was there a question in there? I'll take that. Thank you. I mean, Moonlight is such a beautiful film. I don't even think our film is close to that, but thank you. Struggle is struggle, okay? And we gotta be honest. This is beyond race. This is beyond gender. This is beyond socioeconomic class. This is beyond sexual preference. Those of us who grew up in abuse struggle as adults later on. The pain is real and you cannot see it from the outside.
I just wanted to say, too. A very powerful film. Very moving, beautifully done. It's a work of art. I emphasize that aspect.
Can you speak louder,
But
please?
this is a work of art, essentially. Very sound, moving.
I want to hear you. I want to hear you.
Oh.
Speak. You got to speak into it and put it on your mouth. That microphone.
The answer is I rest this on my chin, but this comes out of my heart. I just want to say that the nuances, so subtle, so delicately handled. There was no effort to conquest. You were right there capturing us, capturing the delicacies we have in our soul, and you were able to articulate it.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I want to hear you, but I can't hear you, and I know it's coming. Why don't you come into the camera and talk into the camera with the mic to your mouth? Go over here.
He liked your film. A lot.
What did he
It's
say?
a work of art, he says. It's a work of art, creative, a work of art. Wonderful film. Nuances. Good. Okay. Good.
And
Delicately
thank you.
handled.
And thank you.
Hi, I love the film. It's one of the best films I've seen in a while. I wonder if you could tell us more about the young actor. And you got Lou Diamond Phillips to be in your film too. So
Yeah. And Dash and Betsy and Keith. But yeah, Greg auditioned. He was very he's got swagger. He's got like, you guys could follow him on Instagram. He's got like 200 and something thousand followers now. And nobody's even seen his work. It's just he's like a cute kid, I guess. That's how he gets followers. He's a beautiful example of how a man should behave, in my mind. He changed my life. And I promised him I'd make this movie, and that was a promise I was not willing to break. And I think maybe what the difference between Tim and a lot of other people is he understood history really well. He was very humble. He was loved by everyone. Everyone loved him. Everyone. He was a varsity baseball coach. The city of Berkeley built a baseball field, voted on a $5 million bond. If you ever drive by Martin Luther King Jr., it's the Tim Mulroney Field there. It's the first grass baseball field that Berkeley High School plays on it now. But yeah, I mean, the city of Berkeley voted on that. So it's not just me that loved him. Everyone loved him. He was humble.
Thank you very much. That was an experience, to say the least. It reminded me of certain portions of my own past. The scene in the kitchen where incredibly moving for me. But my question is, how did you move from Wall Street to filmmaking? It's a very specific medium to tell the story. Were you a filmmaker at some point? Is this your first film? Did you go to film school? Or is this something that just you did on your own?
So, yeah, I never went to film school. When I was a kid, I wanted to act. And I was so manipulative. I think I was like a good actor as a child. I don't know. And when I was 21, Tim wanted to write a book about our story. Saw something that his friends had suggested it. And I said, let's write a screenplay. So he wrote the first draft of the screenplay then. I used to work for a movie director, actually Lee Daniels, a pretty famous movie director. He did the movie Precious and The Butler. I worked for him for like a few months, but wasn't even on set or production. And, actually Precious is very similar to my cousin's story. She was 14 and had her first child. Actually, she robbed, I think a wealthy woman in Danville, 14 or 15 years old, and it was her first offense, and she got 5 years in prison for that. And Tim, a tall white man, got her out of jail. So that was Precious. And I worked for Lee, and unfortunately Lee has not helped me with this movie at all. And that's okay. But that was my experience. I had never gone to film school, never did a short film. And I never wanted to direct this, actually. I thought I could produce it, maybe, but I never intended to direct.
I want to tell you one thing before we sign off, and that is one of our newest members to Mountain Shadow. I saw your film last week, and he sent me an email. He said, I want to tell you 3 things. He said, the first thing I want to tell you is that I was deeply moved by that wonderful film. The second thing I want to tell you is you took a real risk bringing that film into Walnut Creek. And the third thing he says was, good for you. But I want to turn around and say, Santiago, good for you.
Thank you.
All right? Thank you, my friend.